So first of all, there's a lot. DISC is a lot. How many of you know what your DISC profile is? You know what your DISC is? Okay. So most everyone that's on camera, good.
Huh?
So I think this is just a
Just
great topic and a great
a
thing
real
to remind
real
ourselves of.
estate meeting, yeah.
Oh, let me mute Derek real quick.
Sorry.
Um, so it's just a good reminder for us of what our personality types are and to be hyper vigilant about looking at what our clients' personalities are like types are like, because we're going to communicate with those people in different ways. So there's a lot of content in here. Don't worry about it. We'll send out the slide deck after. And I tried to make it it's really self-explanatory in the slide deck. And then if you don't know what your DISC is, get with your operators or operations and they can get you. Place has the full assessment link and they can get you that. And also, if you haven't done it recently, I always recommend retaking it at least once a year because you do change. So some of your core things you lead with don't change, but some of the others fluctuate too. So I'm just going to get as far as I can. We'll get to cover as much as we can, but I'll be respectful of your time. So are we ready? But please feel free if you have any questions or have any real life scenarios, I want you to chime in. Would love for this to be interactive. So anyway, we're just going to talk about the DISC. So the first thing is kind of understanding the different personality types. And there's all sorts of different personality tests out there, of course. The reason that I really like the DISC and use it a lot, well, one of the reasons is I'm a very high D. So I need things to be concise and easy for me. So one of those things is to know what your personality types and what you need to know. So yeah, my D is a 99. So it's up there. So so one of us just to understand what you are. So the four types are the D, which is the dominance, aka known as dicks or direct people. Influencers, these are your fun people, the people you want to be around. S are your steady eddies. These are your kind people. These are your steady people. These are this is the majority of the population. And then C's are your conscientious people. They are your numbers people. So they're the ones that dig into that. And so here's a visual on it. And one of the things that I think that we forget in real estate is kind of dominated by D personalities, because there's direct driving forces. But the thing that I love and the reason why I like teaching this class is because it reminds me that D's are only 9% of the population. So I would love to see what the statistic is inside of real estate, but the total population, D's are only 9%. And then I's are 29%, C's are 30%, and S's are 32%. So it's just a really good thing to keep in mind. And that's why it's so important to know who you are and try to identify who your client is, because that's going to help lead you how to communicate with them. Right. So you'll see I'm so sorry. I wasn't going through the slides. I apologize. I wanted to see your faces, so I have you up on the screen instead of the slide deck. So this is it here. Better now that you can see it. So one of the things you can see is like you'll see the legend, basically fast paced and outspoken. D's and I's kind of share that characteristic. D's and C's share the characteristic of being questioning and skeptical. So they're kind of going to be your challengers. They want to know the why behind things, and C's want to see the data for it, right? D's don't necessarily need to see the data, especially if they have a C that provided the data. Kim is our operations, and she's amazing, and she will research everything. And I know she's going to research everything. So when she comes to me and says she wants to do something, I usually just say yes. But what I've learned is, and Kim can attest to this, is that it's important to her to show me how she got there, because she put a lot of work and effort into that. I know she put a lot of work and effort into it. So I'm like, yeah, do it. Great, done. But that's my D personality coming out. And the C in her, she wants to show me why and how she got there, because in respect all that research and effort that she went into that. So by just saying yes, it's me, I feel like I'm like, okay, I totally trust you. Yeah, do it. But then I'm taking away from her and all the work that she's done. Does that make sense? So it's very important to know exactly who your team members are too, and how to communicate with them better. And then ISs, accepting and warm. We love our ISs. Thank goodness they're in the world. And then CSs are cautious and reflective. So a lot of times you'll see, you'll see some S's. S's are good team members, great team members, because they like to be part of something and they want to be part of a team, right? But they also are cautious and reflective, and sometimes that can inhibit them from getting started, from launching, because S's want to feel comfortable with everything. So they want all the information. C's are the kind of same way. They want the data. But what you have to be careful with is that you don't get stuck in thinking you need to learn everything before you launch your real estate career, because there's no way you're going to learn everything in real estate. They're just, no day is the same. Every day is different. So you definitely want your foundation, but after that, you just kind of have to take that leap of faith. And one of the things you can do is rely on your team to help you with that too. So, and then we have the flip side, the D's and I's, who will just go and then figure it out later, which can sometimes be an issue too. However, in real estate, sometimes the go and figure it out later might be the better course of action. So let's dig into each one a little bit further so you understand them. So D's, and really the thing I think that's most important to understand are their fears, especially when you're working with your clients. So when you're doing your consultation, if you can identify what their personality type is and you can know what their fears are, if you can alleviate their fears, so that if anybody was on the Play to Win call yesterday, if you can eliminate their fears so they trust you, that's sales, right? So that's why this is so important. So D's, their characteristics are they're direct, they're results oriented, they're driven, they're assertive, they're competitive, they're risk taking, they like to think that they can multitask everything. Their motivators are winning, success, achievement. Their fears are losing control, being taken advantage of, and failure. So for D's, they want to just know that they trust you, that they're going to make the right decision, and that you're going to take control, that you're going to handle things. That's what D's want from you as a realtor. And the preferred communication style, you just have to be fast. I mean, if you, I'm going to pick on Kim again. I was on vacation last week. She sent me an email on Friday that said everything that she accomplished during the week and kind of brought me up to speed. And the last paragraph was hilarious because it said, if you've made it this far, and then add more information. And that's so true. So for high D's, you want to put your important information in the first paragraph of whatever you're sending, if you're sending an email, or bullet point it, because most D's will not make it. If you have 3 or 4 paragraphs, they won't make it past the first or second paragraph. So just know to put it up top. Just avoid small talk, get to the point quickly, and then just focus on results. So, and when D's, a lot of you, I'm sure, have D's on your team, or you might be a D yourself. The one thing you have to be careful of is when you get stressed or get really overwhelmed, you get hyper focused and you sometimes can be dismissive to people. So it's one thing to be self-aware of in yourself. And then just know. So when you're doing these things, when you're doing your consultations, a great example, I had a consultation yesterday. I knew that my decision maker was a high D personality. So I went into our consultation and cut it about in a third. I took out a bunch of slides, because if I would have left everything in there, I would have lost her, probably 3 slides in. So I went from a 25 deck consultation down to like a 7. I just took the most important things and went over those things and then made sure that I was going to communicate directly, and I was going to take care of everything, and we would let them know if we needed anything from them. And that was what they needed to know as D's. So just make sure you don't give them too long of a consultation, or you will completely lose them. If you've seen people's eyes glaze over as you're talking to them, those are probably your high D's. High I's, these are your influence people. They're outgoing, they're enthusiastic, they're optimistic, they're people-oriented, they're so fun to be around. Everybody wants to be around a high I. Their motivators are social interaction, recognition, and then collaboration. So how many high D's do we have? Okay. And then high I's. There's usually a lot of high teams are great because of the collaboration. You have a lot of I's. And then S's. And then C's. Okay, interesting. Okay, should have done that to begin with. I'm glad that most of you know what you are. And again, if you don't, make sure you take that assessment. So, so high I's, characteristics: outgoing, enthusiastic, optimistic, motivator, social interaction, collaboration, fears, rejection, loss of approval, disconnection. So when you're consulting with a high I, you need to make that about them. So high D's, you kind of want to stick to the facts, get through it. Here's what we're going to do for you. Here's what we're going to take care of for you. And take this off your plate. We've got you. That kind of, if you have any questions, just let me. High I's, you definitely want to ask them a lot of questions and engage. And they are going to tell you a lot of stories. So they're going to tell you all, because they like to talk about themselves and they like to be engaging and they want for you to like them too. So you have to really feed into that fear of rejection and loss of approval, and then make sure you're connected. If they don't feel a connection with you, now, Derek, you've got to be a high I, right? So yeah. So if you don't feel connected with people, what happens? You're muted.
I mean, if I don't, I try really, really, really hard, and then I completely get like just unmotivated. Like I lose all motivation. Yeah.
Yeah. So that connection piece is the really important piece with your high I's. Um, and then you want to be warm and friendly. So your high I's communication when you're doing your lead generation, a lot of times, I like to start with my high I's, or I'll make my high I calls in the car when I have a little bit more time. Because you're gonna need, you can't just call and go with high I's. If you call and go straight into the, hey, it's time to do our yearly review, let's set a time and get a schedule, you are going to turn them off. You're going to need to talk about them and their lives first, and then move into what you're actually calling for. So you just want to allow a little bit more time with the high I's. High I's, I found, typically prefer phone calls over text. So it's another good thing to make sure you know how they would like to be communicated with. So that way you're communicating with them in the way that they'd like to be communicated with. And then just make sure you show enthusiasm, like talk about their contributions, focus on the big picture, acknowledge things, and make sure you're being warm and friendly and engaging. So important with the high I's. And you're going to have fun because they are fun. High I's are great. The S's, oh, I love our S's. Our S's are steady people. They're dependable, they're loyal, they're patient, they're team oriented. So on teams, S's are, I think, the glue for a team. Their motivators are stability and harmony and making sure they're helping others. Their fears are change, conflict, and instability, which real estate can be a very fearful place sometimes. However, that's you just want to. Oh yeah, I love that. Lovingly loyal humans. They are lovingly loyal. So their fears are change and conflicts. So when you are dealing with a client who is a high S, you want to make sure you're going to assure them. You're going to say things like, we're going to hold your hand all the way through this process. Don't worry, we're going to take care of you. We're going to answer all of your questions. It's more of a consultative, working together so that they feel very safe and very comfortable with you. And it's going to take some time to build trust. So a lot of times in consultations, S's are quiet during your consultations. So my warning with that is be very careful with that, because your S's are also, a lot of times you'll have a D and an S together as your clients. And so you'll speak to the D because they're saying, yeah, okay. But if you recognize you have an S, make sure you're engaging them, because your S is going to go to work after you leave that consultation. And if that S doesn't like you, you're not getting that business. Does that make sense? Because that's the secure person. That's the stable person. That's probably the person paying the bills at home. It's probably the person taking care and running the household. So be very, very careful. I've fallen into that trap before, where I get on this rapport with the high D person, and client, and I tend to cut things shorter than I should because you have to find a happy medium. When you have a D and an S, you have to find a happy medium in how you're doing your consultation. And I wasn't engaging enough to the S, and I walked out of there thinking I killed it. No, did not get that listing. So, and I could have sworn I got it. So just be careful, make sure that you're pulling your S in. And it does take the time to build the trust. So S's, when you go into an S's home, if you go in for a listing consultation, it's very warm. It's very warm. It's very inviting. It's going to have lots of family pictures. Everything's going to have to do with like family and togetherness. Typically, you'll see lots of family pictures. So that's kind of the difference. A high I, a lot of times you will see awards, recognition, diplomas on the walls, things like that. D's can be tough because D's can also have, awards and plaques and things, but D's typically are going to be more minimalist type household. And so it's just when you're doing your walkthrough for like a listing consultation, just ask questions and look for those cues. And you can, once you study the disc and kind of even if you just think about the characteristics, you can cue into who they are. And even if you can cue into what one of their personality types is, it's going to help you more than not knowing what either one is and who you're talking to. And then your C's. Oh, your C's. So for your consultations for your C's, you're going to bring lots of facts, lots of data, lots of statistics. So that's what they want to see. They're the analytical, the detail oriented, they're disciplined, they're methodical. They like accuracy and order and quality work. So sometimes, D's and I's can drive C's absolutely batshit crazy because they just, and S's are too nice. They want to do exactly what the C is asking them to do. The D's and I's are like, whoa. So just make sure their fears are the criticism of their work. They always want to do a good job. They are always going to strive to do the very best job they possibly can. And then also, they don't like ambiguity. So if they don't have clear direction or what's most important, what's the top task to do? This is a great reminder for me because I'm horrible at this. And I know Kim craves this. You have to make sure that you have those meetings and talk about the task. Like what's the most important thing? Because for my fellow high Ds, everything's important, right? When you have a genius idea of something you want to change in your system or your process it's the most important thing. So, and you're super excited about it. You'll come in, it usually happens after like seminars or a panel or something. That's when it happens to me. I'm like, okay, let's do this. I used to come in and say, we're going to change everything. I don't do that anymore because that freaks everybody out. But you're excited and you want to make that change and you come in and then your high C thinks, oh, okay, this is a priority. Well, it may not be a priority. That 5 other things you thought of last week that you were super excited about that you dumped on your high C were also a priority. So you have to make sure that you go through that and explain what is the highest priority and the why behind it. Make sure that your detailed information, you use logic and facts, and you make sure that you answer their questions. So, and you can't pressure high C's. You have to give them the data and the information so that they can make an informed decision on their own. So these aren't the people that you can go in and be like, I got you. I'll handle everything for you. I'll make sure it's done. Won't be a stress for you. If you do that, and that's kind of a tendency if you're a high D or high I, if you start talking too much, you're going to lose those C's too, because they don't want to talk to you. They want the data. That's how you're going to gain their trust. You're going to gain their trust by showing the validity in what you're saying. Like you can back up what you're saying. Does that make sense? Okay. Some little quick tips. Oh, it's already 9:22. Of how to identify personality types. So body language, D's typically have a confident posture, firm handshake. I's are going to be animated. They're going to have gestures. They're engaged with you. S's are more approachable. They can come off a little shy, but they're just relaxed, approachable. And C's are a little more reserved. So they're just going to take their time. And they have measured movements. Whatever that means. They're going to be methodical about their movements too, I guess. And then how to identify the speech patterns. So direct, short, to the point, commanding. I's are going to be excited, expressive tone. Your S's are going to be calm, more steady, and your C's are going to be precise, more thoughtful. So, and then for the behavior groups and settings. So this is easier to identify people sometimes in group settings, because the D will take charge, focus on the goals. If you like divide up in groups, your D is probably going to be the one when they say we need a leader in the group. Your D is probably going to be the one that does it, but it could also be your I, because they want to engage and talk. So your I is the one that engages everyone, tells jokes, tells stories. Your S is supporting others. It's going to avoid conflict. And then your C is going to be your note taker. It's going to be your one taking notes, observing everything, making sure that everyone stays on track. So, okay. And then tailoring your communication. I'll probably end here. I have more, and like I said, I'll send out the slide deck, but these are most important things. What I wanted to make sure I focused on today was just keep vigilant about focusing on who you are and who you're communicating with. And if you do that, your lead generation, your consultations, I think you'll see a significant uptick in getting things signed, getting agreements signed, because you're speaking to them with their language, not your language, which means you were meeting them where they're at, which is so important in real estate. So the last thing is just tailoring your communication. So dominant D, be direct, focus on results, present challenges, opportunities. Don't waste time on unnecessary details or small talk. They don't need the why behind everything. Those I's, just be positive, enthusiastic, friendly. Make sure you let them talk. Make sure you ask a lot of questions. So, and don't ignore their contributions or be overly critical. Sometimes I's get shushed a lot. So don't do that, especially if you're in a consultation or lead generating. Don't cut them off. Let them have their time. And then S's, make sure you show empathy, that you know that you're gonna, give them time to process things. So if you do have a change, give them time to process. So, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Let's think about it. Let's process it, which is one thing that's why I say your personality, your just does change. I used to just not be a processor at all. And now I find myself having a long processing time if I'm making a big decision. And then C's, be detailed, logical. You got to come with the facts. If you're doing a consultation with a C, you better bring the data. You better have the market data. You better have the neighborhood data. You better have sold data. You better have data for everything. Make sure you have it all. And don't be vague or disorganized. If you are overly emotional, you will shut down a C immediately. They will run and hide. So I knew this was going to be fast, but boy, that was really fast. So does anybody have any ahas or anything that you want? Oh, sorry. That you want to share, anything you learned, or things just a good reinforcer of things you already knew?
I
I
think
mean,
like really focusing. I think especially like if you are a high D, being aware, because I think that can be kind of like a hindrance sometimes on us if we are a high D, because sometimes we move too fast. And we do need to slow down for some of our clients. Um, so that's like something I always like try to look back is like, okay, who is my client and how do I need to show up for them?
I love that. And I always remind myself there's only 9% of D's, because I always think everyone's a D. Anybody else?
Darcy has her hand up.
Oh, yep, Darcy, go for it.
Yeah, good reminders, Tina. I really appreciate you visiting on this morning, and I just wanted to mention it's really important that we remember that this is not about judging. This isn't about judging each other. This isn't about judging ourselves. This is about understanding. And when we can understand ourselves better and we can understand other people better, we can do a much better job of showing up for them in a way that they really need us, whether it's a roofer or an inspector or a refi or buyer, a seller, a babysitter, right? So just remember to understand. That's it.
Yeah, and I like that you said that too. And sorry, Mary. But one thing, because it's like we're automating a lot of things now, like Brevity can do so much for us, but I do think So understanding who we're showing up for and understanding our clients is even more important because everything is so much more automated in the back end. Does that make sense? So it's like how we're showing up for our clients in person is even more important because it's not we're not doing as I don't say we're not doing as much, but there's so much more automation. We definitely need to be showing up for them how they need us.
Hey,
Oh,
Mary?
Mary, go ahead.
Thanks. One of the things to remember is, this is an assessment and we all have all four in us, right? So my adaptive of a DC can conflict many times, right? And when I'm going to go on an appointment, I need to be prepared for all four because I may think I've identified that person on the phone, but if you might identify me as a D, but when you sit down with me and you're going to try to sell me something, my C is going to come out, right? Um, and when you have two people at that appointment and you're trying to identify two at the same time, a question you can ask one is, what's most important for you today that I cover, right? If you can kind of say it's a D and an I, go to that I first, right? And ask them that question because the D's pretty much going to go bam, bam, bam and try to shut down the I. So I'm going to go to the I, let them talk, and then go to the D. So by asking that question, like at a listing appointment, besides price, what's most important that we talk about today? And ask each one individually, same as a buyer consultation. Before we get started today, what's the most important thing that you want to walk away with, or what do you want to learn? Because a C will pull out their to-do list of all the questions they want to ask. But I didn't talk to the C, I talked to the D on the phone, right? So just by asking some of those questions, and you might be able to pull them out a little bit more. But you have to remember, we all have all four and try not to focus asking the questions, right, Tina, that might pull out their second level of this assessment, because usually you have two that are higher um, of all four. So thanks.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's so I don't on our team, we definitely do our consultation first. And so that helps guide what the presentation's going to be like. So we do our questions first so we can kind of get to know people. I think that's very, very important. Thank you, Mary. That's awesome. Well, I hope that this was a good reminder, and I love the disc, and it was a great reminder for me. I made everybody on the team do their discs this week. So as I didn't have them all. So it was a good reminder for me too. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tina, for your
Thanks,
time.
Tina.
And actually, Tina, can you just do a quick introduction for yourself? Because I don't think some people knew who you were. Just like where you're from, how long
Oh,
you've been in
sorry.
place, that type of thing. We
I was
gotta
so
jump
wanting to
into
get
it.
into it. With Tina, we have the
Our high D.
Tina team in Kansas City. So we're newer to Place and so excited to be here. So we're learning so much and digging into brevity and just excited. So thank you. So keep us in mind if you have any referrals in Kansas City area. We will take great care of you.